In this video, I will answer several questions that I've received on my YouTube videos and my TikTok videos around 3D fashion design. I posted a video a couple of days ago about how I am no longer using mock-up packs to design garments for my fashion brand, and how I'm using a software called CLO3D to create custom patterns for each of my brand's garments so I can create unique pieces. The first two questions I'm grouping together. Can you make a tutorial? And did you learn CLO off of YouTube videos? First part of that question, no, I cannot make a tutorial. I'm not the best at using CLO, and I'm not in a position to be teaching other people how to use that software. When I first started learning about 3D fashion design, I learned from a YouTube channel called GRMNT. I highly recommend checking out GRMNT on YouTube. Great videos. They're at the cutting edge of this 3D fashion design thing for real. The next questions are all about finding a CLO3D professional or digital atelier. I work with one specific atelier. She lives in Europe. I hire her on a per project basis. She charges a flat fee, and then I receive the patterns based on my design ideas within a week. I found her through Fiverr about a year ago. I am a firm believer that you can find people to do anything on Fiverr and Upwork, but I had to go through a lot of trial and error. It cost me just a little over $200 to get the patterns made based on my design requirements, and that also comes with 3D renders, a tech pack, and graded patterns. Then it cost me about $100 to create the sample for that garment with my manufacturer. That's about $300 to get a single garment made. Because the CLO3D Atelier gives me multiple revisions and the model used is based on a real person, I typically don't need to make any revisions to the sample. For this denim jacket, for example, it cost about $300. The sample was perfect the first time, so then I just immediately placed a bulk order after that. The next question, is your atelier somebody you have on retainer or a freelancer you use where each project is a different price? So like I was saying before, I work with one CLO3D professional on all of my projects, and I pay her on a per project basis. Next question, can you use this program for accessories like small bags? Yes, you can. Next, Nick said, it seems like there's a middleman now because you have to send your stuff to CLO3D instead of directly to manufacturer. I said, while the inclusion of an atelier has indeed increased my costs and adds a step to the chain, it drastically reduces the amount of time it takes to get high quality products to market. It might take me months to create patterns in CLO3D as well as a tech pack with information about trims, bill of materials, all of that. I'm way better at coming up with ideas and iterating on them quickly, and then spending the rest of my time running my brand and business. So the weakest links for me are the pattern making and the design process of the garments. So I like to think of it more like hiring a really talented designer to my team to help me best execute on my vision. I'm paying them and we have an agreement, so everybody's happy. Therefore, it's more like expanding my team than adding a middleman. Tro West said, can you share more about the process with working with the manufacturer? Generally, how you took the files from point A to B, do they just run with it or... Okay, so I think I know what you're saying. Basically, I go through this whole design process with the CLO3D Atelier. I put together a bundle of files, and then I send those to the manufacturer. That bundle of files includes patterns, which are the specific dimensions of each of the pieces of fabric that need to be sewn together. Tech packs, which include information about fabric, trims, the way things need to be stitched, the way things might need to be embroidered, the position of the tag and logos, and more. I also include 3D renders in the file because the CLO3D 3D renders are extremely realistic and give the manufacturer a very solid idea of what the garment should look like. My manufacturer takes all the information and they'll create the first sample. Then if the sample is not perfect, I will order another sample and make changes. Generally, all of that happens in the design process. If I have a good workflow with the atelier, the 3D simulation of the garment ends up being exactly how I need it because we model it based on the dimensions of a real person. So 9 out of 10 times, my first sample, or the alpha sample, as many designers call it, is usually perfect and I get it right the first time. So no, the manufacturer is not just running with it. I really am guiding them through this whole process the whole time. They're just doing the cutting and sewing for me because that's not a skill set that I have. Next question is from Slicky328, who is a subscriber. Shout out Slicky. They said, I also noticed you did not add any sizing references to your PDF. For example, if I want to try out a method like this in the future, did you also give any sizing references, maybe from your favorite jacket, shoulder length, top to bottom length, etc., so that the sample would fit? I'm asking this because I saw when you received the patterns with specific dimensions, it made me wonder what was the CLO3D Freelancer using as a base reference. So the CLO3D Freelancer was using real dimensions of a real person as the base reference, which is a really amazing feature about that software. But before I started using CLO3D, yes, I referenced all of my favorite garments. Pretty much all of the clothes that I released for the first 3, maybe 4 years of my brand were based on measurements I took of my favorite clothes that I wore every day. Instead, if you use a CLO3D Atelier, you would send them the measurements of your favorite pieces if you wanted to reference a specific piece, for example. Or you can tell them to make the height and weight of the 3D model based on your dimensions or the model you're hiring. The reference that I use is based on the model that I hire to do the photo shoots, because ultimately they're going to be the ones wearing the clothes in the primary content that I'm using to sell the clothes. So I want to make sure that the clothes look as good as possible and are as fitted as possible to the models that I'm shooting. Then there definitely were a couple hater comments, and I just want to address those. So this person said, I don't want to learn my industry, so I'm just going to hope the software can replace dedication to the craft. I don't think the CLO3D software is replacing dedication to the craft. I think it's just the next stage in the evolution of fashion design. The future is now. So if you have a problem with me using 3D software to design clothes when I otherwise have no access to a sewing machine or formal education around fashion, I didn't go to school for fashion, I never will go to school for fashion. It seems like maybe this person is a little bit more upset with the democratization of fashion design and how it's more accessible to people with tools like CLO3D. But I think that the democratization of fashion design is actually amazing. I welcome it. I wouldn't be running a brand right now if that wasn't the case. This next person, Spy, said that my lack of interest in learning to sew is why I will fail. People will be able to sniff out inauthenticity. You have zero passion for actual design and just see fashion as a means to fill your pockets. I think that's an insane insinuation. If you spend more than 30 seconds looking at my YouTube channel or my TikTok, I try to make it clear that this is my passion and I'm going all in on it. I'm trying to be as authentic as possible. I don't hide anything. I share all my sauce. I enjoy fashion. To a certain extent, I think that's subjective. Anyone can enjoy fashion in their own way. And I definitely do not see this as just a way to fill my pockets, because I lost a ton of money for a long time, sinking my paycheck into my brand because I believe in it so much. So it actually drained my pockets for years. Next comment says, this is such a man thing to do. Get to sewing and be a true creative. So the CLO3D Atelier that I work with is a woman. So this comment is ironic and sexist, but you do you. And then I'll wrap this up with Guy6349, who says, if you want to be a designer, learn how to sew and make clothes. Yeah, that's basically what I'm doing, but instead of ordering fabric and sewing it in person, I'm using digital fabric and sewing it digitally, which is zero waste. I don't have to waste fabric. And I also need to spend all of the other hours of the day running my brand, making YouTube videos like this, sharing my process, editing these videos. I try to put out 4 to 5 videos a week and I edit them all myself, do the thumbnails, everything all by myself. So I'm just kind of doing what I need to do to be a designer in 2025, given my circumstances and lack of formal design education. I don't understand why people get so pressed about that. I think maybe some people are a little bit nervous about technology and future things and they don't like change. But the rise of this neo fashion designer that uses 3D tools and is completely zero waste is on the rise, and it's here to stay. For example, Grace Ling, she is a fashion designer based out of New York City. She's originally from Singapore. She was one of the first brands that I noticed really started using 3D design to create zero waste accessories, which I think are really cool. Those are answers to the top questions on my YouTube and TikTok from the last couple days. I also addressed some snarky comments. If you learned something or found this valuable, please like and subscribe. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover in a future video, please leave a comment and I'll see you in the next one.